My name is Richard Green, and we're going to talk today a little bit about Paul Jacoulet and his 162 prints that he made, and why Jacoulet was not considered a major artist in his time, but might be considered a major artist today, at least somebody worthy of consideration. In order to do this, I have to do something called taking you a long distance out of your way to come back a very short distance correctly. We're going to start by talking about the meaning and technique of painting from the cave people who first put paintings on walls of caves to the present day. And when people put drawings on the walls of caves, they were creating the first paintings. And paintings are essentially a magic trick. They're taking a three-dimensional object, like a bison or an elk, and putting it on a cave wall, which is 2 dimensions. And that can be done with varying degrees of realism and varying degrees of symbolic meaning. Gradually, people's technique improved, and they began to learn some of the tricks to create more realistic paintings. Some of this is evident in Greek statuary and Greek paintings, which I've outlined over here. That magnificent head was done in the 5th century BC, and the magnificent pottery was done at about the same time, maybe 300 BC. So all of these people had developed by this time very realistic ways of depicting subjects on flat surfaces. Somewhere along in this process, sacred subjects became separated from profane images, and art became a thing unto itself. We call this illusion of three-dimensionality realistic. Painted or printed images may be realistic to a greater or lesser degree. Artists became preoccupied with developing a set of skills that allowed them to translate three-dimensional images into two-dimensional surfaces. You're looking at a painting by Tintoretto right now, and Tintoretto exhibits all the realistic artist's toolbox. He uses vanishing points, foreshortening, drawing from life, shadows, special effects like water, sky, and light, classical forms, and generally the paintings are meant to ennoble the subjects they represent. All of this was taking place between about 1400, which is the beginning of what we know as the Renaissance, to about 1550, which might be the end of the Renaissance. Some of Tintoretto's work is from 1570s. And beginning about in 1850, artists began to reconstruct individual features of realism. They deconstructed light, like Monet. They deconstructed subject matter, shape and form, like Cézanne. And they deconstructed color, like Fauvism, Matisse. Modernism is born under the slogan by Mies van der Rohe, less is more. That's modernism. Realism began to be dispensed with almost completely. Take a look at the secessionist postcards that are there. They represent an in-between state where some things of art are modernistic and other things are stubbornly realistic. Move one over to the Picasso, and you see reality has completely been deconstructed. It was at this time that Jacoulet was born, and if you go to the last group of pictures, the abstract expressionists, this is Helen Frankenthal's Genji series. You can see that, we've now lost most of the features of realism we just finished discussing. This is where Jacoulet lies, most of Jacoulet's work lies, and he doesn't fit in very well with these abstract expressionist people. If you take a look at what the hottest movements are in art nowadays, You see a lot of work done by women who are left out of the traditional story of art, and by LGBTQ people who are also left out and occasionally persecuted. Jacoulet was a gay person himself and made art that was 100% true to himself while simultaneously concealing his true nature from everyone. He was a secret social and cultural revolutionary. This fits into the basic operating strategy of gay artists, was to make work that challenged the status quo while maintaining plausible deniability. Now let's take a look at some of Jacoulet's work. This is a typical Jacoulet print. It's what I would call sexually ambiguous, although it is clear that we're looking at a woman. Her gaze is directly at us. She's looking right at us, which is unusual for Japanese prints. Extreme foreshortening has been used to illustrate her position. And she is a subject that any person at the time would feel challenged their view of what a woman should be and how to illustrate her. Let's take a look at another one. Here's another one in a similar vein. The angry expression, the sexual symbolism of the flowers. Look at the large field of color in the background. This is very atypical for Japanese prints. The necklace she's wearing around her neck is a sign that she's a married woman. That's a married woman's necklace. So there's a lot of symbolism. One of these days I'd like to do a study of what these tattoos mean in these societies. That would be very interesting to know if they had some sort of meaning, whether Jacoulet just made them up.
Because we know other details like the certain flowers and shells
Yes.
that these women were holding were not made up.
Yes.
He was very detailed about certain things, so it's likely that
Well,
we'll find something.
the cowrie shell that the woman was holding in the first Jacoulet print, a femme tatouée, the tattooed woman, that was a sexual symbolism, a female sexual symbol. This is a group of Korean beggars. It's hard to understand today why this print would be considered as revolutionary as it is. First of all, it was done by Koreans, who were a discriminated minority in Japan. Secondly, they're done by it's a picture of beggars. Why would anybody do a thing like that? So Jacoulet was completely flouting all traditions by illustrating these people, and he was ennobling them and putting out a positive image of their life at a time when these people were considered the dregs of society. In contrast, this is a picture of a very socially acceptable woman. Where's the challenge here to society? The title of this print is a modern Japanese woman from Kobe, the city of Kobe. No one who's ever looked at this print, focus in on her face. Go closer. No one who's ever looked at this woman has ever told me they thought this was a Japanese woman. One day somebody will come along and explain to me how this could be a Japanese woman, but it's never looked like a Japanese woman to me or anybody else. And I think that's typical of the kind of switcheroo that Jacoulet was trying to play. These prints were considered highly interesting subjects today because of the sexual ambiguity, because they are often illustrating women, because they represent diversity in society that wasn't tolerant of diversity at the time. They'd be considered worthy subjects today, but at the time they were done, they were a challenge to the social and cultural order.